Alright, so all of inheritance started off with this guy, Gregor Mendel. So he's probably the most famous kind of name in genetics, simply because he's an Austrian monk who basically was a botanist and studied peas like nobody's business, okay? So this is where some of his experiments actually came to be from, is the fact that he was crossbreeding these pea plants and then allowing for us to see some sort of like differences in the genetics of those pea plants being bred. So the joke of like your guys' cartoon is that, man oh man, because he's growing so many peas, it's gonna be pea soup forever and ever and ever in their like monastery. Funny. Anyways, I'm definitely allergic to pea soup, so I could not handle working with Gregor. Good old Gregor. Alright, so the next, okay, so he's kind of seen as the pioneer of genetics, okay? He experimented with pea plants and their traits. Now, at the time, don't forget, we also were very limited in understanding what sort of DNA was actually out there, okay? So Gregor kind of like had to work off of probability and just like the normal kind of selective breeding things that, or technologies that we kind of knew. But back then, it wasn't really technology. It was just kind of picking and choosing which kind of seed plants you were going to plant. Okay? So, pollination, just to explain how this kind of worked out. The stamen, which is the male part of the plant, produced pollen, which is transferred to the pistil, which is just simply the female part of the plant, okay? And this is where the eggs are produced. So, some plants can do this thing called self-pollination, some can do cross-pollination. What's kind of cute is that the grade 7s just learned about this, okay? So basically the stamen, if you've ever looked at a plant, it's always that little part that has like a little long line and then like all the pollen is kind of found up there. So if you've ever looked at a lily, lilies are like the quintessential type of flower that you have out there. And then on the inside, you'll actually have this like green stem that's kind of sticky and it eventually kind of smells like, it smells like chapstick, you know, like minty kind of chapstick, or just like the regular Joe Schmo kind of chapstick. But basically that pollen can have the choice to actually stick onto its own, or it can actually go elsewhere if a bee comes by and kind of like pollinates. Okay? So basically fertilization occurs, and then we produce a seed, and then that's how kind of like the plant life kind of begins. Alright. So here's our little diagram of what goes on in our pea plants, okay? But like I said, in this case here, our lily is actually going to be the like quintessential true to form type of male and female part demonstration, okay? So if you ever have seen like a lily on the inside or any sort of a flower, okay, this happens to be a dandelion here, okay? I do believe it's a dandelion. Okay, there's your pistil, so that's the female part right there. Okay, and then you've got these things called anthers, which contain all of the pollen. So basically what can happen is that the pollen will actually distribute itself onto the pistil part, so that at the top there's a sticky stigma that's going to capture all that pollen, and then it's going to travel down something called a style, and then you've got little eggs or ovules that are waiting to be fertilized by this particular plant. So what'll happen is that eventually inside of here, and that's why we produce fruit, for example, fruit will actually contain the seeds for later on for that flower to kind of distribute its offspring, okay? So I'm actually going to hand out a tulip that you guys can look at, just to take a look at.